Now, when we've been talking about covalent and ionic bonds, one of the things that we've mentioned is that covalent molecules do form separate discrete molecules, and ionic bonds tend to form giant lattice structures. However, it's not that simple, because sometimes you can get giant structures that are made up of covalent bonds, and there's a few of these that you have to know about for your exam. This is an example of one of the giant covalent molecules that you have to recognise. This is silicon dioxide. If you look at the diagram, you can clearly see that all the atoms are covalently bonded together in a giant structure. The formula, SiO2, just tells us that for every silicon in the molecule, there are 2 oxygens. Remember this one. You could be seeing this diagram in your exam. Now, although the example that I showed you to start with, the giant covalent molecule of silicon dioxide was made up of silicon and oxygen covalently bonded into that giant structure, then the other ones you need to look at are all made of carbon. Because they're made up of carbon that's joined in different ways, and each one of them has different physical properties, we say that all these things are allotropes of carbon. Carbon formed together in different ways and showing different physical properties. And the ones you need to know about are diamond, graphite, graphene, the fullerenes, and carbon nanotubules. And we're going to look at those now. Now, the first allotrope of carbon that we're going to look at is diamond. And diamond is created underground under conditions of extreme heat and intense pressure. Now in diamond, each carbon atom forms 4 covalent bonds with other carbon atoms in a giant covalent structure. So this means that because covalent bonds are very strong, diamond is very hard. Diamond has a very high melting point, and because all the outer electrons are involved in bonds, because every diamond is bonded to 4 others, there's no delocalized electrons. This means that diamond cannot conduct electricity. Here you can see the structure of diamond. In graphite, each carbon atom forms 3 covalent bonds with 3 other carbon atoms, and they form layers of hexagonal rings with no covalent bonds between the layers. So the bonds within the layers are very strong, they're covalent bonds, but the bonds between the layers, not so much. Now, because only 3 of the outer electrons are involved in the bonding, because each carbon atom is only bonded to 3 others, then there's 1 delocalized electron for every carbon atom, and that means that graphite can conduct electricity. Graphite can be used as a lubricant because the layers slide off each other so easily, and it's also used in brake linings, and it's used to make moulds in foundries. Here you can see the structure of graphite. Notice those different layers. The diagram demonstrates how easily the layers can slide off each other. If you know the structure of graphite, you know the structure of graphene, because graphene is simply a single layer of graphite, and because it's got those delocalized electrons, it conducts electricity. So it's very light, very strong, and it conducts electricity. This makes it very important when we come to look at the uses of it, and these are some things you should know. Because of those properties, graphene has uses in display screens, electric circuits, solar cells, and there's lots of uses in the medical and chemical industries too. Just as an aside, graphene was actually isolated by scientists at the University of Manchester about 10 years ago, and they got a Nobel Prize for doing it. It was a very big deal for Manchester and a big deal for Manchester University. Here you can see the structure of graphene. Remember, it's just a single layer of graphite. Now, fullerenes are molecules of carbon atoms with hollow shapes. The structure of fullerenes is based on hexagonal rings of carbon atoms, but sometimes they can be in rings of 5 or rings of 7, not just 6. The first fullerene to be discovered was Buckminster fullerene, which has a formula of C60, and it has a spherical shape. Now, the important thing about fullerenes is also their uses. Fullerenes can be used in drug delivery systems because they're hollow. They can be used as catalysts in certain reactions, and also because of the ball shape, which means they roll easily, then they can be used as lubricants. Here is the structure of a fullerene. This is Buckminster fullerene, spherical with a formula of C60. Now lastly, we come to carbon nanotubules. Now, carbon nanotubules are a type of fullerene, but they differ from the other types in the fact they've got a very high length to diameter ratio. This gives them some very important properties, and those properties make them useful for nanotechnology, which covers a wide variety of things, electronics, and making certain materials with very high strength. And here is a demonstration of a carbon nanotubule. The same basic bonding in the hexagonal pattern as graphite and graphene, but obviously the shape is a lot different.